It's for real.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Nostalgia Crackdown here on the Let's Get Ready Network. I'm Adelia. I'm here with my buddy Josh. Missed a month because I had a whole bunch of internet trouble and Josh was out of town, but we're back and we're here to talk about the champs who never defended their belts. Josh, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited for this topic because when we talk about Schmoedown history and like the greatest champions ever, our mind always goes to people who've defended their belt. If you look at the greatest runs in Schmoedown history, you always have a defense. It's why when you first become a champion, yes, you're always in the champs club, if you will. You always be acknowledged as a champion, but there's also a separation, if you will, in my opinion, of like being able to defend because I remember there was a big conversation when someone didn't defend and they had a chance to defend. It's like, this is their first defense. This is their chance to be in that category of champs who not only won, but also defended their belt. So I think it's a very interesting list we have. We're going to kind of group up people who we think have similar reasons why they either lost or it makes sense to group them together. I think we should. Part of it is, looking on why they didn't defend. Part is also giving their dues because they are champions and they are, each one of them. It's an impressive feat to become a champion in a Schmoedown.
Absolutely. And I will say there was one of these that I had forgotten was a champion until you brought them up as one of the people on this list, which does not reflect well on me for that because I'd just totally forgotten top 10 wherever the champs. So let's get started. Let's start with the early career champs, as we're calling them.
Absolutely. So we have 3 early career champs. In my opinion, the next tier will have some early career champs as well, but there's a differentiation that I felt like was important. We're going to talk about in this group Matt Nost, Ken Knapsack, and Robert Myers-Burnett. Both Ken and Robert Myers-Burnett are the first champions of their division. Robert Myers-Burnett won the first IG belt. Ken Knapsack won the first Star Wars belt. Matt Nost was not the first team's champion, but was the second with top 10. What I like about what's interesting about this list, and if you go look into Schmoedown history, there's only one first-time champion who's ever defended, and that's Mark Riley. And even then, I think Riley only has one defense to his name, so he almost never defended the belt. So
that's kind of crazy to think about when you bring that up, because like the Schmoedown was so different in the beginning than what it evolved into by the end, but the level of competition was clearly just as high if these champs weren't able to defend their belts.
absolutely, I think it's like part of it is what I find so interesting about it is the evolution of sports. Is like and I view Schmoedown half as a sport, and as a sport evolves and as more seasons come on, you have competitors trying to game the system like Ben Bateman. You have competitors that are just human accuracy, like insane people that like it's like, I can't miss a question to lose this question. The reason why Nost is in this tier, even though he's not a first time champion, is because I view this was pre-Patriots defense. And like in my opinion, the team's division really started going and once the Patriots won the belts and started defending and went on their amazing run. So when I look at these 3 competitors, Matt Nost, Ken Knapsack, and Robert Myers-Burnett, is that like they were at the top of their class when the division first started. But as the division kept going, it really felt like it was difficult for them to catch up. I don't think Robert Myers-Burnett won another IG match after this match. I'm pretty sure he ended his IG career 1-3, his only win being a championship match.
I think you're right about that, yeah.
Ken, I'm trying to remember. He might have one more Star Wars win, but honestly, I'm trying to think of it. He might.
I'm gonna look it up. You keep talking.
But Ken also, after he lost the belt, never got close to getting back there. If you think about it, he had a number 1 contenders match in the 3-way that lost, and he it didn't seem like once we went to the Damon era, Ken wasn't a contender, if you will. And then finally with Matt Nost, top 10 out of all of them, he's the one who arguably, like, after losing the belt, was the most competitive. Top 10 did very well, had a lot more memorable matches after losing the belt, and they got close a couple times. Very memorable matches with team action.
Oh yeah.
But in the end, like, they couldn't compete with the Patriots, which was the main era. Like, that's the main team you got to beat in their era, if you will. And if you look at top 10,
Mhm.
I think I have a lot of respect for top 10. I don't think they could have competed in the Shirewolves era, the Shazam era. And like, I think when Nost retired, he kind of retired at a good point because his accuracy wasn't at the same level as higher rated competitors.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Looking at Ken's win-loss record, he's 1-4 in Star Wars. So his only win was that was it Fatal Five-Way that they did at Star Wars Celebration in
That got him the
2017, which
belt.
crowned the first champion. Then he had that championship match against Sam Witwer at Spectacular and lost the belt. He had a triple threat match with Alex Damon, and Joseph Scrimshaw for a number one contenders match. And then he lost a championship match to Damon at Schmoedown Spectacular 2018. And then he lost to Andres Cabrera in the 2020 Star Wars tournament.
Yeah, and it's funny to think how similar Knapsack and Robert Myers Burnett careers are if you think about them. Both won the belt in their first match, never won a match again in their division, which they won the belt. Also, both of them underrated teams careers. I believe Robert Myers Burnett is 5-2 in teams
He
all
is.
time. And Knapsack was the first teammate of Rachel Cushion with Nerds Watch, and that was a very underrated team as well, even though they never got to the highest heights.
Knapsack's team record, according to the Shimano Wiki, is 2-5.
Oh, that's you would think that, like, in my head, you would think that Knapsack would be 5-2 and Robert Meyer Burnett would be 2-5. That's kind of
Yeah,
surprising, actually.
that's kind of surprising. I'm gonna take a look at the teams matches. He lost a match in the teams tournament in the 2015 Ultimate Schmoedown. He had 2 wins with Nerds Watch, and then they lost 2 matches in a row and then
Yeah.
broke up. And then he lost with the Lions Den to the Shire Wolves. That sort of like culmination of the storyline.
Oh, right. I mean,
So
some
that's
of those
his
losses,
teams record.
I mean, like the teams tournament one, that's really really early Schmoedown, and then they were the first gimme match for the Shire Wolves, if that makes sense. So, like,
They were, yeah.
yeah, but that does make sense. And I remember Nost had a losing record in singles, correct?
I believe he
I'll double
does.
check
You're
that, but
looking it up.
I don't read it. I don't have I'll double
Nost
check.
was 3-3 in singles.
Oh, so I thought he had
3-3 in
a
singles, 10-6 in teams.
yeah. I mean, Nost
Nost
was a
was a
very
much better player than people give him credit for. But I think because he stepped away and retired and wasn't around for um, the whole history of the Schmoedown, a lot of people kind of forget that. Like I did. Like I said, I'd forgotten top 10 had won the belts.
yeah.
But Matt Nost was a very good player. Um, they beat the Schmoes, Ellis and Harloff, to win that team's belt. Then they lost to the Patriots. They basically kickstarted the Patriots as champions. Robert Meyer Burnett's IG belt. He won a fatal 5-way against, I believe it's Ashley Robinson, Jeremy Johns, Hector Navarro, and John Campia to become the first champion. Then he lost to Hector Navarro the next time he played. And then Ken, then that fatal 5-way we were talking about at Star Wars Celebration, beat Jenny Nicholson, Jeremy Johns, John Campia, and Sam Witwer. People forget Sam Witwer was in that Star Wars Celebration match. So I think they could have had a really great rivalry between Knapsack and Witwer had Witwer stuck around the Schmoedown, and that just never developed.
Absolutely. I think we can move on to the next tier, which I call the busy tier. We
Yeah.
have first time champions with Christian Harloff and Mark Ellis, first time teams champions, and also Sam Witwer. The reason I put them all together is, like, Witwer retired early because he wasn't as interested in the Schmoedown, but also he was extremely busy being an I believe actor and voice
He is,
actor.
he is he's an actor and voice actor, yeah.
And with both Mark and Christian, they were the first teams champion, but they were doing so much stuff behind the scenes as the Schmoedown evolved. And they both still went on two very good runs. I mean, people forget Harloff is a singles champion as well, not only teams, but also single. And
Yeah.
if you look at the names he beat to get to that singles champion, a lot of
It was a
really impressive
very
names.
impressive run for him to get to that singles championship. Beat Dan Murrell, of course, for the singles championship, then immediately lost it to Sam Levine.
Yes.
So, they beat, Harloff and Ellis together beat, Box Office Breakdown, which was Finstock and JTE, and then lost to Top 10. So,
Can you imagine Tom Dagnino being in this list when if he won that match?
I can't imagine Tom Dagnino as a champion. I just can't. I can't.
If that happened, I think like in my all-time rankings, I'd have to move JTE like 2 or 3 more spots up. And no offense to Tom Dagnino,
Yeah,
but it
yeah.
it's interesting to look back on that. That was the first teams match. But really, I think all 3 of these competitors, if they
Well, it wasn't the
weren't,
first teams match, it was the first teams
I mean,
championship match.
first teams champion, yes. Um, but looking at all 3 of these competitors, they all, I think, had tremendous potential, if like, they just weren't as busy because when I think, like, both Mark and Christian, when you're that involved behind the scenes, when you're that involved with announcing the matches, the rules, the scheduling of the matches, it's just so difficult to also then put up time to study possibly. And
Yeah,
with Whitwer, Whitwer was incredible. I mean, everyone thought Whitwer was unbeatable, and the match that will be lost to history is Whitwer versus Damon, which was coming
yeah.
up. And
It's
who
supposed to be
knows
that
what would happen?
spectacular. Sam, I believe, got a job in Vancouver, I believe was what the thing was, and so he had to leave and relinquish the belt, and we never got Sam Whitwer in the Schmoedown again, and that Whitwer versus Damon match is one of those Schmoedown what-ifs that we have talked about in the past that I really think about sometimes because would we have gotten the unstoppable Alex Damon for as long as we did if he had Sam still in the league?
Absolutely. And also with Mark Ellis, I think Mark out of the 3, Mark Ellis stopped playing the earliest. But he had a really good run in the singles tournament, I believe, losing to Dan
He won
Morrill.
the singles tournament one
He
year,
won
yeah.
this, yes. He won the singles tournament and then lost to Dan Morrill in the championship match.
Yeah.
That was a bit before my time. So honestly, the Ellis run is like I started really watching when it was the Merle versus Roca title match. That was when I first started really watching. That was a bit before that. So but Ellis always at least I
Ellis
heard
was so good. He was so funny while he was playing too. Like, I believe that championship match against Dan Murrell, it was at Spectacular, so he did the whole match dressed as Santa Claus. He'd come dressed as a carrot. Like, Ellis was just so I missed Ellis playing after a while because he just brought so much joy and fun to it, and especially when, things in the later seasons got super, super serious with the matches. I miss someone like Ellis coming in and just having some fun.
absolutely, and he even brought a little of that to the desk at least when it got super
He did,
serious.
yeah. Yeah.
And like, even though he never defended, it's like he's a Schmoedown legend alone for his announcing. Like if like first ballot, if there was a Schmoedown Hall of Fame, if you will, both Harloff, Ellis, and
Harloff
maybe
and
even
Ellis are in the first class for
first
sure.
ballot easily. Like
For
just,
just for getting even the announcing and the competing, just for inventing the thing, their first ballot
absolutely.
Schmoedown Hall of Famers.
But I could make the argument though, even if you take out the behind the scenes stuff, I think Harloff's a Hall of Famer just for
No,
that
I'd agree.
amazing for being the first teams champ, always having a good, really competitive teams run, but also that singles run, as I said. Like, I'm pretty sure he beat Chef
Single
Snyder as well to get there.
yeah, I'm
It's a
pretty sure he
really
did.
impressive run looking back on it.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to the next tier. I grouped these 2 guys together. I call this tier the historic losses tier. This is Ben Bateman and Mark and Draco. Both of these
Okay.
competitors are they like they have an incredible amount of amazing matches. And,
They
like, they have a
do.
lot and not only amazing matches, amazing runs. Bateman has been known for his tournament runs. Mark and Draco was a part of some incredible teams in factions, and I like looking back, and we'll get to Bateman because Bateman has like a couple defense chance. Like the Merle defense chance is like kind of rough. It's kind
Yeah.
of rough because that's the moment. That's the moment where it's like, oh, Bateman's going to get his first defense. He's going to put himself in a new type of tier, and then Merle, does his like Dan Merle thing, comes back from that incredible
Yeah.
and like wins in an OT, comes back both two or three times against Bateman. Absolutely incredible. And then Mark and Draco, if I remember correctly, Adelia, I think he was a two-time champion with the Odd Couple. He almost won the
Mhm.
singles championship
He
with,
did face against Bibiani once, yeah.
and that was a really, really close match as well. I believe and
It
Draco
was. I
lost on a
think that was the
5-point.
high. I think he lost on the 5-pointer. I believe that was the highest scoring match of all time at the time.
Yes.
Obviously isn't anymore, but yeah, the Andraco became a team's champion with the Odd Couple with Jeff Snyder. They beat the Shire Wolves, then they lost to the Shire Wolves, then they beat Shazam in that incredible, spectacular match where they won on the 5-pointer, and then he never played again with Jeff Snyder as the
Yes.
Odd Couple. And Snyder played and lost the belts with Janine as his partner because Andraco was taking some time away from the Schmoedown. Uh,
Yes.
Bateman, of course, beat Paul Oyama in that match at Spectacular after his great tournament run, where he played twice in one night to get to that match. He beat Bibiani, I believe it was, in the tournament final, um, and then beat Oyama to win the belt. And then that match against Merle, was that in Atlanta? I want to say that was the Atlanta live
Yeah.
event that year. Um, that was hard to watch.
That was the first one. I found the first one not as hard to watch because even though it's such an exciting moment, and really it was a 5-point game, and what happened is I think Bateman misses the 5 and Merle just hits all his. So like
Yeah,
what makes it hard, what's hard in my opinion, is the second one when he plays Bateman virtually, because what happens is he's up 6, so Bateman has to miss 2 of his questions
yeah,
to
that one's rough too.
so he immediately misses the 2-pointer on a Fast and Furious question, if I remember correctly. Um, and then also misses the 5, and Merle is able to pull it out, not needing OT in that one. But it's like it's it's whew, man. Both Bayman and Draco, it's like you can count on 2 hands how many amazing matches they've been, how many historic game changing matches they've been, both in singles and teams for both of them. And Draco had to step away a couple times in the Schmoedown, or at least step away once, but he wasn't as consistently playing for as Bateman was. Bateman
Yeah,
was all like, as when Bateman was playing in the Schmoedown, it felt like he was playing in almost every match, almost every week in some way. He was
it
involved in
did
almost
feel
every
like
storyline.
he was involved in the main storyline for a long time. So, the thing with Bateman in the Atlanta one was he had the 5-pointer to win, and like everyone in the crowd you could sense knew the answer, which I believe was involved in the movie Heavyweights.
Yes, it was. I thought it was a tough question. I had no. It wasn't like a, because it wasn't a plot. It wasn't like actor question. It wasn't a movie release dates
Yeah, it was a
question.
plot question.
It was like a plot question. What is the nickname or something in this character in Heavyweights? I believe it was like something like that.
Yeah, it was something like that, and he didn't get it, and then it goes into overtime, sudden death, and I forget which movie Merle won on, but you could tell Bateman just couldn't think of it. And
Yeah,
I felt really bad for him because he worked so hard. Another thing that makes that Bateman tournament run so legendary is, of course, his back injury that he had during that. So he's sitting there. He can barely walk to the set for these matches. He's in tremendous pain. That's why the tournament final got delayed to being part of Spectacular, was because I believe he had to have back surgery.
yeah,
And then he won, and I was so happy for him. And then just the heartbreaking losses to Merle, man. Those were
yeah.
hard.
And at the time they were teammates, which is, and they would later become teammates in Danger Zone. And what's interesting, what's looking back on, also another heartbreaking thing about Bateman is we've talked about the singles. We haven't talked about the who's the boss of it. That incredible match against the Shire Wolves.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like even though Bateman's never been a team champion, he gets so close so many times, whether it's with
He
Action,
does.
Team Who's the Boss, or Danger Zone. Those are three historic teams, all championship level teams, and the ball just never fell their way, if you will.
Yeah, Bateman, I don't think would go on my Mount Rushmore, but he'd be very close in a if you added like a second tier of Mount Rushmore, he'd be on it for me.
Like, for me, both Bateman and Draco are that around 8 to 12 range, if you will. Like, outside the top four, partially because they never defended, but like, and Bateman also reminds me a lot of Kalinowski, where Kalinowski would the same thing would happen, where he'd just be in so many memorable high stakes matches in both singles and teams. And like, I think if you can argue, if we were to count, like, oh, what is a 5 out of 5 possible top 20 match of all time? I think it's going to be hard to find a non-Bateman or Kalinowski one. It's like the majority of them will either feature one or the other, and that makes it so heartbreaking why Bateman never ended up defending, is because he was in so many incredible matches.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then Draco, just to say on Draco, he was also incredible. Like I remember when he came in and was a singles competitor, and then he got wrapped up into the Lions Den nonsense. But I was so happy when he broke away from that and joined the Fife Club. That's when I really fell in love with his character and his personality. And he was really, really good. And I don't think he gets the credit that he deserves for how good he was either.
And he also has an incredible moment at free for all when he clears the table. The
Oh,
first
the
yeah,
XX5XX or whatever, yeah.
yes. That's such an incredible moment, and like you wonder also if that free for all, he's so close to the end. If he's able to pull out that free for all instead of Sam Levine, who knows when he uses that title shot?
Yeah. So,
Absolutely.
great great to have both of them, be considered for what they accomplished even though they didn't defend.
All
That
right. The
doesn't make
next
much
tier,
sense, but that's what I said.
uh,
Um,
all good. The next tier is I didn't know what I wasn't 100% sure what to name this. I called this one great run tier, basically.
yeah.
These are competitors that had a historic one incredible run, but after that run, don't do anything for a couple of reasons. We have Griffin Newman, Adam Collins, Robert Parker.
Griffin Newman's an interesting one in this group for me because he couldn't compete at the final spectacular, and that's why he never defends his belt. Jeffrey Kahn competes and defends with Paul Oyama. Um, it would be really interesting to see what would have happened had Griffin been able to be there. But the run that he and King Khan went on to get those belts was pretty legendary.
And he also had a it's like there was a point where we were saying, like, as a rookie, is Griffin Newman already one of the best players in the Schmoedown, because he
He
had that
was so
incredible
good.
like that's the, he had that incredible singles run, incredible teams run, and similar to Draco, for other reasons he's not able to defend. So, and it's the one time where it's his partner actually has a defense and doesn't make this list, but
Yeah.
but it's yeah,
Um,
Newman's
I just want to say
incredible.
as well, we know that he called himself Griffin Nooms. I hated that, so we're just gonna call him Griffin Newman.
Yes. The other one is Adam Collins and Robert Parker. Again, Adam Collins came up at the same time with Griffin Newman. Collins looked unbeatable in that singles tournament and then winning the belt. Then he plays Dan Murrell again for the belt, and or not again. He plays Dan Murrell then for the belt, and then Murrell is able to win on that. And that was another incredible match, by the way.
It
And
was.
like, he also had a very good career with Lady Justice in teams, but in
Mhm.
general,
His
after it's like,
deception.
I mean, yeah, I couldn't remember the name for some reason, but yes,
Yeah, as Deception. The team
yes,
name was Deception.
yes. So Deception, he had a very good run with Deception, but Deception had so many tough matches, like, in their
They
career,
did.
they never got it going, and like, What's weird about Collins is he looks so unbeatable for that time period, but the minute he became mortal, the minute he got his first loss,
Yeah.
it just like he never got back to that groove, really.
That tournament run that he went on, though, to get to the championship match
Yes.
against Merle was incredible. I remember just, like, first off, who's this guy? Okay, he's from Team Corruption, okay, never heard of him before, hasn't played a match, comes in, and
He
just
has
starts
a playing
killing
game,
it.
I believe.
He has a play-in match, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't remember who his play-in match was against. Was it Andres Gallego, maybe?
Yes, that sounds right. That sounds very right, yes.
Okay, so he wins this play-in match, he gets into the tournament, and then he just starts knocking everybody out of this tournament. Like, he had some massive wins in that tournament. Get to the match against Merle, and I
I mean,
remember,
yes,
like
his
go ahead.
do you remember who his first round opponent is? I
No.
looked it up right now. So he beats you're right, Andres Gallegos. I apologize for
Gallego.
I apologize for the pronunciation of the last name. He then faces John Roca in the first round, wins by
Oh, that's
TKO.
right. That's right. He was that's the other thing I believe about his tournament run is he just knocked everybody out, whether it was a straight knockout or a TKO.
Yeah, the next match after John Roca, he plays Lon Harris, very underrated, very well renowned, very knowledgeable
Very good
player.
player, Lon Harris.
Knocks him out, just not even TKO, just knocks Lon Harris
Straight
out.
knocks him out.
Then he plays Brendan Meyer, and that one's not a knockout. The first two are
Okay.
knockouts, but then he
First to a
plays Brendan
knockout.
Meyer. He wins that one. Then he plays Liz Shannon Miller. And then in the finals, he plays against Jeff Snyder.
Oh, that's right, he played Snyder in the finals, and that was a good match too.
I don't, no easy. There's no, like you look at
No,
that
no
lineup.
easy opponent. It's almost like a murderer's row of Schmoedown, and he just knocked them all down.
Absolutely incredible. And we haven't even talked about Robert Parker yet, which Parker was the person everyone was like it. There were talks about Robert Parker before he even played his first match because he played in the fan leagues. Everyone thought he would come into Schmoedown and like dominate, I believe. And then his
Yeah.
first match was against, I believe, Andres Cabrera, Ace,
Yep.
and he KO Ace. But then he loses in the second round to Chance Ellison,
I
I believe.
remember that. I remember
Huge
Shannon and
upset.
Mike's whole thing about Parker being an unbeatable rookie, and
Yes.
then Chance beat him. So, I do remember that, and then, like, it seemed like Parker just couldn't quite get it together until that final season, season 9, when he comes in and beats Kevin Smets, who had reclaimed the belt after his return, and, then he played in the final IG match ever against Smets, Chandru, and Mark Knopik, and did not win that match.
I mean, five ways are always kind of tough, especially when it's that
Yeah.
murderer's row of five ways. What I'll say about also all three of these competitors, I think at least two of them defend if the Schmoedown goes on to a season 10 or 11, if
Oh,
that
I
makes sense.
agree with that. I think
Like,
I think Griffin and King Kong probably would have gone on a pretty good run as the team's champs. If it would be interesting to see if Parker would be able to go on a run if he wasn't facing, 3 of the greatest IG players we've ever seen in his first defense. Um,
and
and
you
then
think about it, the first defense probably wouldn't be against Smets, which ended up was the person who won, I believe, that five way
yeah, I believe
because Smets just lost the belt. They're probably going to try and have someone like it would probably be someone like Chandru or like a new face basically instead of Smets or maybe Kalinowski even. But
yeah,
um,
somebody else from the IG division probably would have been his first title defense.
yeah. And then with Collins, I just think Collins is too knowledgeable and like you to just see that tournament run. I mean, at the very least, I would have loved to see him in another tournament run.
Yeah.
See how it was. I let's see. Yeah, because the next year is season wait, no, is he in the tournament? I don't remember.
Season 8
He,
tournament, I
oh yes,
believe
he
it
is. Yes. So
was.
he
Yeah.
wins against Peggy Gubbins and loses against Brendan Meyer, which was
Which that's not a bad loss either.
no.
Brendan Meyer, very knowledgeable, extremely knowledgeable.
and
So, that's the
there's
thing
always
about these Schmoedown tournaments, man. You could get up against the heavy hitters and knock them down, or you can get up against somebody that you aren't quite on your game that day, and they take you out. Like, I miss the Schmoedown tournaments
I
so
know,
much.
and, like, I would also say about Brendan Meyer is it's tough to beat a player like Brendan Meyer 2 times in a row.
It
You
is,
beat him
yeah,
you beat him once, but that's, like, now that was a tough, like, bracket, I felt like, because, like, to have to face Brendan Meyer again, after you
yeah.
beat him in the first tournament, it's like, Brendan's a great player, and I'm so happy he got a Shazam run. I'm always sad, though, that he never got that singles belt. It's like,
Yeah,
if it
he's
would
one
like,
of those ones that I woulda loved to seen as the singles champion and what that would have done and developed with his character and all of that, like,
it would have been
yeah,
nice.
would have
It
been
was like
nice.
there were so many moments where it was so close, and he had so many great matches, and he always was in the matches, and, like, even his first match, if you remember, it's Paul Oyama. He faces a soon to be champion in his first match, so it's
Yeah,
really interesting. So
okay.
let's move on to the last group. These are
Mhm,
3 people where I was like, "Oh, wait, they never defended?" This is basically like these are Schmoedown legends who you're like, "Wait, really? They never defended?" Chance Ellison, Ethan Irwin, Mara Knopic. All 3
yeah.
never defended.
So, let's start with Ethan. Ethan beats John Roca, then loses it to Dan Murrell. Then he beats Dan Murrell later on and then loses it to Marisol. Um,
And
I can't believe that he didn't have a defense in there somewhere. Like, that's gotta be wrong, right? But it's
I
not.
because he was also such a machine and he was so accurate. It was like it
Yeah.
was so but like yeah, it's definitely like it's shocking because he felt like so dominant when he was playing in singles, but
Mhm.
for whatever reason, things just didn't fall his way. After he loses to Dan, he goes. It takes him a while to get that chance back, if you will. I
Yeah.
think he has I think he plays in more title matches. Like I think he at least plays Dan one more time. Um,
He might he might.
I'm
I
gonna
just
double
wrote
check,
down
but
the and he also had an opportunity with Lightning Time to become a
yes,
teams champion, was unsuccessful with that.
yes.
It's just hard to think about Ethan Irwin and think he didn't defend the belt. I think we're definitely right about this.
Oh, he
We've
definitely
double
plays
checked
Jim
it.
Earl again and loses in the,
Yeah, I think he's played a few, uh, championship matches, but
yeah. In singles at least, that's his only other one basically.
okay.
But, oh, no, sorry, I forgot that he won a number 1 contender match against Brendan Meyer and then loses to Sam Levine.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Irwin. I
Yeah,
forgot
the
that was
Mr.
when he
Irwin
was
fifth
Mr.
race.
Irwin. I'm sorry, I've blocked out so much of season 9. I
And
have.
that was a rough one for, Mr. Irwin, because if I remember correctly, he spun Wizarding World, in that match against Sam
Yeah,
and loses it to TKO.
if it wasn't Star Trek, I feel like if he got one of the IG categories, Ethan was a little suspect on them.
Yeah, I mean, which just shows that, like, Sam, with the time, is able to choose one of his wheel slices, puts something he knows Ethan's probably and Ethan played in IG and did okay in
Mhm.
IG, but I
He
think
did I believe he won an IG match, didn't he?
yes,
Beat Paul Oyama in an IG match?
he won an IG match against, Paul Oyama, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
he beat Paul Oyama. That was the weird match. I
but,
don't think of that match as an IG match, but it was
I
an
know.
IG match.
Yeah, I mean, Ethan Earl and Paul Oyama did technically play against each other. I don't think they played against each other in singles, but they played against each other in IG.
Yeah.
I'll double check that. No, no, sorry, they do play. Ethan does beat Paul in singles as well. What quickly say though, what happens is Ethan in a post match interview says, I've never watched the Harry Potter movies, and I probably won't do it at any
Yeah,
point soon."
and
So
then
then,
Sam puts it on the wheel probably, and yeah.
yeah. So, but Ethan has a great time, like just a great career in general. Has played so many matches. I mean, I think how many
So
matches
good.
he plays 26 singles matches.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. It's a huge amount. He plays 26 singles matches, 2 IG matches, and then a 7 and 6 teams record.
So 13 teams matches too. Ethan
Yeah.
has played a lot of matches.
Yes.
Um, he was a fantastic competitor, and it's still weird to think that he just never defended the belt. That's very weird.
I know.
Let's talk about Mara Knopic.
Yes.
She beats Jason Inman and then loses to Kalinowski. Then she had to go away for a little while, comes back, beats Chandru immediately, and then loses to Kalinowski again. And then she was part of that fatal four way at the final spectacular with Parker Smets and Chandru, loses that match as well. Um, Mara was so good. I mean, just
Yes.
so good that it's
So good.
crazy to think she never defended the belt.
Like,
But it's
I know.
also one of the things that I can believe about it though is that I feel like she's played so little that it also makes sense that she didn't defend the belt, because if she was defending the belt, she would have played more.
Yeah, like, she definitely falls into a tier. Like, there's I feel like 3 really tiers of people who have never defended the belt. One is very short careers, which is,
Mhm,
Mara's like, Mara's in that Collins and Parker where it's not very short, but it definitely could have been much longer if certain things, happen.
mhm.
There's another tier where it's, like, had a lot of chances and just had a lot of historic matches, did not go their way. That's going to be the Irwin, that's going to be the Bayman and Draco, and we'll get the chance soon. And then with the third tier, is just like won it really early and just the division moved past them one way or another. And that's the No Snapsock, Robert Myers Burnett, Harloff Ellis type of tier, if you will.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Um,
Um,
but Mara was not only a great competitor, she was an amazing a character, if you will. Like everyone instantly fell in love with her, and she was so easy to root for. And she was especially in the era where Kalinowski was this huge villain, and she was
yeah.
almost a foil to Kalinowski.
She was part of, in my opinion, the greatest match of all time, her match against, Rachel Cushing in the Inner Geekdom tournament. The sick game, if you will, they were both so incredibly sick during that game. And that was on her path to winning that, Inner Geekdom tournament and then winning the title against Jason Inman. She was just a fantastic player. It's really a shame that she was unable to play more often. And her match against Chandra as well is legendary. She like comes back, like it's this big return. Mara's back. It's the first pay-per-view event of the year, and she just beats Chandra straight out of the gate. And Chandra had been pretty unbeatable the previous season, so that was a pretty big match too. And then the two losses to Kalinowski, um, I don't remember very much about them, but I do remember that Kalinowski
Well, I
won.
remember the first Kalinowski one. It was, I believe, at Spectacular,
Yeah.
and it was the end of the season, and I believe it goes to overtime. And I remember the specific thing about that match. I don't remember a lot of the match other than it going to overtime, but I believe what's it called? Mara had a thing where based on I think there was a comment made I forget where it was made on the internet. I think it was on the I forget the name of the Bateman Schmoedown show where he would interview Schmoedown competitors for the Schmoedown.
Backstage.
Backstage, yes, that's what it is. So I think it might have been on Backstage where, or it was either on an Action Guys interview, but I think she says that like in that moment, like it was very because she was so exhausted when she played Cushing and it went to overtime, and she's had
Mhm.
so like a good amount of overtime matches. When it went to overtime, her brain kind of shut off and
Yeah.
like she had a very difficult time. Um, with that match, I remember again. I don't remember specific. I just remember something about her commenting about that match going to overtime and then it being a little triggering or just difficult for her when that happened. So that's where I mean.
That makes sense.
The second match against Kalinowski, I also don't remember as much. I think it was a good match. I think it was a pretty good match, but I think Kalinowski was just like cementing his case for the IG goat. Um,
Mhm.
so, but either way, it's definitely like if Mara play. It just if Mara just played more consistently. Like easily, she probably defends at least once.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Okay, let's talk about chance. The thing about chance ending up on this list is that I learned through this, or was forced to remember through this. Corruption never defended the belts once they had it.
It's funny because we constantly talk about corruption as like there's definitely the Patriots and the Shazam, but if you go to the next tier, you can make the argument that a lot of people put. Well, I would put the Shire Wolves next, and you could say, let's say Patriots, Shire Wolves, Shazam. A lot of people I think would have corruption fourth, and they've
Yeah,
never defended.
they never defended. They beat the Shire Wolves in the Shire Wolves final match to win the belts. Then they lost to the Founding Fathers. That was that whole thing with the Orlando live event, I believe it was.
Yeah, Dan Murrell uses the free for all to play against corruption, and going into that match, they beat the Founding Fathers 2 times. So like it was like, oh, if we lose against corruption, we're retiring.
Yeah. And then they win the belts back from the Founding Fathers, and then they go through 3 losses in a row in championship matches to Shazam. One of which was another 5150, a 5150 that I don't think most, gets talked about enough because it was incredible at that live event that they did. Um, and so, was that, Collision?
It was no, it was a live event. It was like one of those live events that was like in a bar. I remember. I think. I don't think it was like a collision or anything like that. It was like it was one of the pay per views, but not like I don't. I'll double check, but I don't think that
See?
was a collision.
I
Um,
don't know.
it
Hmm.
was a Schmoedown throwdown, but it wasn't a. It doesn't say anything about it being collision or not.
That they definitely did it at some, like, event thing. Might be a
It definitely
Schmoedown
was
Throwdown.
live. It was like live. It was one of those live things where it wasn't at an event. It was like I think people, but like they were all standing at tables, I believe, and it was at
Yeah, it was something. I'm gonna
yeah.
look it up. Yeah, the 5150 loss in overtime was the 2021 Schmoedown Collision.
Oh, it was collision. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
I I forgot.
Sorry,
Ooh,
my internet just screwed up there for a minute, but yes,
got it. Okay.
it was the Schmoedown Collision. That was the loss in sudden death, the 5150. And then they lost to Shazam again the following year. And I believe that was the match that required them to break up if they lost to
Yeah,
Shazam.
it's funny that
So
Shazam added that. And then his only other teams matches, he has a win with Easy Street, which I believe is him and Maris. Or we're gonna double check. Oh no, him and Travis Fishburne.
him and Travis Fishburne, yeah.
Which would have been an interesting team to see if it happened. What's also interesting about Chance is he's one of the few players that have kind of succeeded in all three divisions. If you look at it, he was a pretty good
Hmm.
IG player, a pretty good singles player, and a great like historic teams player.
He doesn't have a losing record in any of the divisions. He's 7-6 in singles, 4-4 in IG, and 9-5 in teams.
That's also a crazy match count, if you will.
It is, yeah. It's
It's like that's like
14,
that's like 30
14 teams matches, 8 single IG matches, and 13 singles matches.
35 matches.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember the thing with Chance in singles is it would constantly be he would play these extremely close matches and he'd look really decent, but like lose first off against tough competition. You think, oh, he might have an easy match off the gate. No, his first match is against Ethan Irwin in the Schmoedown tournament.
Yeah.
Like, what's it called? Then he wins against Janine, wins against Emma, but loses against Paul Oyama. Loses against Bibiani. Like he plays Jeff Snyder, wins against him. I think that was a match where he gave Jeff Snyder Wizarding World. So like that didn't go well.
I think Oyama's the one that gave him Wizarding World. Was that the match that Jeff got 70s? Might have been that match.
Possibly. He plays JTE, loses. He actually wins by TKO against JTE for a number one contenders match
Mhm.
in singles, but then loses the Marisol in the championship
Oh, no,
match.
you're right, he did give him Wizarding World. I think
And
Oyama
then
also did that.
yeah, so it's one of those things where he like he's just playing constant great competitor, great competitor, great competitor, great competitor. Then he gets like a David Del Rio, but then a great competitor, and then a Liz Shannon
Yeah,
Miller, which is still pretty good. But like at that point, he had enough
yeah,
because of his team's reputation. You couldn't just put him up against any rookie because at the time he had this great teams run and like he would constantly be winning in teams. So you're like, well, I mean, it's unfair to put him against like especially when it was tournament time. So he goes against Ethan. He goes against what's called Janine. Then he plays Emma, and Emma wasn't a great singles competitor, but still veteran player. So he had a lot of tough matches in singles, and I remember it'd be the thing where we'd always be like, "Man, how has Chance not even gotten into us?" Because he was so accurate in teams and so deadly, and had so many
yeah.
like truly insane moments, if you will. Like I think he played his mind, like played out of his mind in that Shazam 5150 game, like truly out of his mind. I think Kalinowski had a bad round one, but Chance like just kept them in it, if I
Yes,
remember correctly.
yes, that's what I recall. Chance was so fun to watch. Like, he was Mr. Focused and the shades on and everything, but I always did love his personality, like, seeing him on stuff outside of the matches themselves, like interviews and things. I thought he was just, he you could tell he really loved the game, and, it's crazy to me that out of all of the matches he played, he never was part of a defending champion.
Yeah, especially with corruption. I mean, like corruption was so good in there. Like they have so many incredible matches, so many feats. The fact they almost made Founding Fathers retired, and that was supposed to be like the super team that was going to dominate the league, and
Yeah.
like that's incredible. Also, we talk about it. We were talking about Robert Parker and how he was supposed to be the rookie to come in and beat everyone. Chance comes in, almost wins the IG tournament, loses against his fellow partner Mike Kalinowski. Sadly,
Mhm.
after that tournament, he doesn't do that well in IG, but he was always dangerous. And again, didn't have a losing record. Was 4-4, and you can make the argument that like after that Parker beating Smets, I wouldn't be surprised if the next person in line was Chance in IG. I wouldn't be surprised if he was close to possibly.
Yeah, could have been.
Did he have a season 9 IG match? Let's see.
I
I'm gonna
don't know if
double.
he did, but I could have with the way season 9 went, I could have seen them just throwing that match at us anyways. Um,
Oh
because I
no,
don't know.
his last match was against Mark Haas in the IG tournament. He lost in the first
Mhm.
round.
Oh, yeah, that's right, he did lose to Moose.
Yeah, but in general, like we when it's either Chance, Ethan, or Mara, like truly some of the best competitors we've ever seen, all had incredible matches. All like you just assume they defended just because of how dominant their runs were. And also it's not even that it was like it was one run. Mara had multiple runs, even no matter even though her career was so short, she had two championship runs. Ethan had two championship runs. Chance also had two championship runs. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think if there's any other multiple time champions on this list that hasn't defended. I know Harloff is, uh,
Harloff is, but that's in 2 different divisions.
and Draco.
Um,
Odd Couple did win twice,
Odd Couple did win twice, yeah.
and then
Um,
Bateman did. He was I think he wins
Bate
twice.
Bateman did not win twice. Bateman beat Oyama to win, and then he never won the championship again after he lost it to Merle. So, yeah,
It just
it's Irwin, Chance, Knopic,
Harloff
and
and
Draco,
Draco.
and Harloff. Yeah.
So like which you how do you not defend? Well, you win the belt once and then you never get back to the goal, because even if you are a champion, it's so tough to get to the singles teams or
Yeah.
IG belt in
Yeah.
Star Wars especially as well. Just all four divisions, it's like the fact that you're a champion puts you in a certain category above that, like, oh, you're always a champion, because it's everyone realizes how difficult it is, and when you lose it you never know if you're going to get it back.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Josh, any final thoughts?
Um, I it was fun to go down memory lane with these competitors. I think it's very interesting, like to see like the type of people who haven't defended, but I also give them their love because I feel like when we talk about legacy Schmoedown players and matches, we sometimes often forget the competitors that have never defended because the defense is what makes sometimes a great run.
Yeah, I agree with that. Um, all right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for this somewhat delayed, unfortunately, episode of Nostalgia Crackdown. We're back on track. We'll be back next month with a brand new episode. Josh, where can people find you?
You can find me here on LGR. I'm about to lose. You can sometimes find me on the fantasy football show on the LGR highlights. I have a curse where every time I appear on the LGR highlights fantasy football show, I lose the next week. I'm about to lose this week. I'm pretty sure. It's and when I hosted the LGR, I had the part of the reason I had to stop hosting is because I had to I had a curse. I literally every time I'd appear on screen talking about fantasy football on this channel, I'd lose the next week, and I'd be on this going on this huge losing streak. When I'm like, I don't understand how but I scored so many points the first 2 weeks, and then week 3 I go on the show, and then I'm like, okay, I've barely score 100. Thank you. But support LGR, whether it's the LGR highlights or this LGR channel. Support them any way you can, whether it's like, comment, subscribe. Let us know your thoughts about the champions who never defended. Let us know if there's any episodes you'd like us to do in the future. Any feedback is always appreciated. But I'm all here on LGR, so just supporting LGR is supporting me.
If you're interested in helping support LGR, you can buy us a coffee at our new Ko-Fi page. I think it's just pronounced coffee, but it's spelled ko-fi.com/LGR_network. We're moving away from Patreon because Patreon sucks. So join us over there if you're interested in helping to support the channel. Otherwise, if you could just like and subscribe to the channel, that would be really helpful. We are I think as of today, 31 away from 1,000 on this channel right here. Would really love it if we could hit that by the end of the year. So if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. And we will be back next month with another episode of the show. Until then, we're out.
It's for real.